When you look back in hindsight, everything is 2020. In hindsight, we make mistakes, we're learning from it. In hindsight, yesterday and your tomorrow. In hindsight, is so much clearer now.
What if fear, failure, and frustration weren't roadblocks, but stepping stones to something greater? My guest today, Dr. Rosemarie Downer, is a developmental psychologist, author, and minister dedicated to helping people navigate life's challenges through faith, leadership, and personal growth. With decades of experience in youth ministry, leadership training, and social science research, she brings a unique perspective on how to push past life struggles. Today, we'll explore how fear, failure, and frustration can shape into who we weren't meant to be. Good morning. How you doing, doctor?
I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm very excited and interested to talk about this topic. A lot of times we come face to face with things of fear that bring fear to our heart, right? Mm-hmm. And I think this, especially coming from a how would I say this? From a spiritual, from a religious background of leadership, it's a very faith background. It's a very you're trying to find the words, and we were talking about technology earlier. Now I'm trying to figure out the words I want to say. But it's coming from a great perspective. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
So
perspective is very different when you're anchored in faith, meaning specifically the Word of God, versus when you're not. Those three F's can do wonders in a negative way to you when you're not anchored in the Word of God, when you're not anchored in faith. You go through them very differently because we all go through them. They're common denominators to all of us, but how we handle them is a function of where your faith lies. Is it in you? Is it in somebody else? Is it in God? Or do you have any at all? But we all have some level of faith in something. Yeah.
Absolutely. Hey, so this is Hindsight, the podcast. Before we get started, I gave a little brief bio of who you are, but could you just go and tell us a little bit about who you are, some of the things that I missed?
You kind of covered it. I went to school in Maryland, got my degree, University of Maryland, College Park, developmental psychology. I served as an adjunct professor for 24 years, teaching mainly graduate level students. Also did social science research for the federal government for 20 years. I retired in 2019 and loving it. Being on my own schedule, do what I want to do, when I want to do it, travel when I want to travel, for as long as I want to travel. I love it. Now, I started writing early 2000s. My first book came out in 2009, but because of career and ministry and all the other things that I was involved with, my writing slowed down. I retired 2019, and my mom was transitioning over those 2 years. She passed in 2021. Then I got back in the saddle and the dust cleared and started writing again. I now have 10 books out, and I do training, I do speaking, I minister, I do retreats. Love to talk about my books, love to do things like this podcast. Any opportunity to minister the word, I'm there. So that's who I am.
What was your first book? And I'm always interested because I am an aspiring writer. Actually, I guess I'm a writer because I'm already writing. Mm-hmm. I'm an aspiring published writer, right? Mm-hmm. So how was your first book? What was it? What was the book? What was it about? And what was the process for you? How was that?
So I go back and forth. My first book was The High Call of Forgiveness.
Okay,
yes, that was my first book. The High Call of Forgiveness is a mandate. And of my 10 books, that's my most popular book. That's my book that's in demand the most, not because of when I wrote it, but because of what it's about. Forgiveness is a huge issue for a lot of us. The process in writing that book is interesting because I had gone through a very painful experience that required me to forgive them. And being a believer, I love the Lord. I'm a Christian because I love Jesus. I'm a Jesus girl all the way. I'm a full Jesus fan. I don't serve Jesus because I don't want to go to hell. I don't serve Jesus because I love church. I love the man Christ Jesus. And when I was really hurt by these individuals in church, because imperfect people go to church. Church is not perfect. That's why we go to church, to get healed. I realized that the pain and the way I felt was interfering with my relationship with him. And I knew from the word of God that it's required for us to forgive. It's a mandate for us to forgive. And being a writer, I was always journaling. I was always writing stuff. So I would get my journal and I would write pages and pages and pages of how I was feeling and how hurt I was and how disappointed I was. And I looked up one day and I'm like, okay, you have written so much. You could write a book. This is like some chapters of a book. Why not just write a book?
Yeah.
And the Lord stopped me. He said, he didn't tell me why. He just stopped me. Because I'm a type AAA person, not even type A, type triple A. I don't start things and don't finish it. And I just could not continue with what I was considering to be a book. Well, I think it was 2009, 2001, I believe, I went back to the book.
Okay. 2001 or 2011? You said 2009 and then you said 2001.
2009 was my other book. 2001.
Okay, Okay, I got you.
Yeah, I went back to the book. And when I read, because this happened, I'm dating myself. This happened in 1994.
Hey.
The incident that led to the book happened in 1994. I started writing the book. The book, I thought, in 1995. I had to put it to rest. I went back to it 2001. The Lord led me back to it 2001. When I read what I wrote, I realized why he stopped me. Because that book would not have healed anybody. Because I was pretty much pouring out my pain. I was not at the place to minister to someone. Because I was hurting. I was bleeding, right? At the time.
Yeah.
And then I was ready to write the book. And I wrote my first book, The High Call of Forgiveness. That was a process. And it was easy to write it. The Lord, by that time, had taken me through the process of forgiveness, what forgiveness looks like, his way, consequences of unforgiveness, the whole bit that's in the book. Now I have a workbook. I have a student workbook, a leader guide, a devotional, a whole Bible study on it. Yeah, that was the process in writing my first book.
Wow. Now, I know this sounds silly, but humor me. What is like your definition of fear, failure, and frustration?
Okay. So those are three different words. So I'm going to take them one by one.
Okay.
Fear is real. But it's being overpowered, intimidated, and dominated by something you think is bigger than it is. People define fear as seeing something that is not actually there. No. It's there.
Yeah.
But the perception of it is bigger and stronger than it really is. And your response to it only give it more leverage to dominate you. And we can talk about how we can make fear a blessing to us versus a hindrance. I won't say curse, versus a hindrance. Because if you don't understand the dynamics of fear, it will cripple you because it's real. It's a real thing.
Right.
Failure, that's a whole thing as well. Failure, I define failure as one of our best teacher and definitely a stepping stone when used properly.
Okay.
Failure is not final. Failure does not define us. Failure. So fear, failure, frustration. Frustration are like fireflies. Frustration are like gnats.
Yeah.
Frustration comes in incy-bincy increments. And therefore, it's easy to overlook them, ignore them while they are piling up. If you're at the park in the summertime, those gnats are very annoying. You don't stop what you're doing to get rid of the gnats. You just keep flashing them away. But you still try to eat your hot dog and your chips while it's flying around. But if they continue to pile up, and you don't address them, don't flash them away, your hot dog is going to be covered with gnats in a minute, and you can't eat it. That's how frustration works. These little things that happen in our day, in our life, that they're sitting in our spirits, in our minds, and we don't deal with them. They pile up, and then the tsunami comes in. Yeah.
Wow. So it looks like, fear and failure, it's a mindset thing. Just, I guess, how you approach it, maybe, mentally. And then frustration. Wow. So frustration. So if just based off of the firefly and the gnat analogy, when we look at frustration? Is that more of an action, like if you're frustrated about something, let's act on it immediately so that it doesn't build up? From your perspective, how do you look at that?
Right. So the important thing is to address the issues. So
Okay.
it's we get frustrated from two different sources. Sometimes we get frustrated because of our own personality. We get frustrated because sometimes we just can't leave things alone.
Yeah.
That should be left alone.
Yeah.
We just can't leave things alone. That should be, it's inconsequential. It's not worth
Right.
your time. It's not worth your energy. Why are you being bothered by this thing? And you carry this thing with you all day. You're grumbling. Your face is all screwed up. You can't talk pleasantly. You don't want to do this. You don't want to do X, Y. So you've now opened the door for frustration. And this
Absolutely.
enemy sees that and it takes advantage of it. He sends something across your path. You insult the person and everything spiraled down for the day.
Yeah.
You started it.
Woo.
But there are times when frustration introduces itself to you. I approach it two ways. Is it something I can change? Is it something I can control? Is it something I can influence? I need to discern at that moment. If I can change it, if I can make an effect on it, then I need to deal with it. If I can't, I need to let it rest where it is and not let it get beneath my skin, not let it get in my psyche, not let it get in my mind. That's how frustration works. So think of ancient times, right? You had shepherds,
Right.
and they would have the sheep out. Now, sheep they're nice. We need them, but they're one of the dumbest animals, right? That's why the scripture, my sheep know my voice and a stranger will not follow. We are dumb. We need to follow Jesus. So sheep out in the field, the gnats, the insects goes up in the sheep's nose, in their ears and make nests. They go up little by little and frustrate them, irritate them. They end up banging their head against rocks because they're getting infection and things like that. So you don't get a whole of flies attacking the sheep. It's one by one they crawl up in their nostrils and just settle in there. That's what frustration does. It's drip by drip. Another analogy of a word picture person. Put a sponge under a dripping faucet.
Yeah.
It doesn't get saturated with water in a minute. Over time, that bit frustration, that bit drop, this drop. Go back there a few hours. You can pick it up and it's dripping out of it. That's what frustration do to us. It breaks us down gradually. And sometimes we don't realize what it's doing to us. Yeah.
Yeah, I heard that. I heard a story on that one. And I think you've done a great job. I don't even need to add anything to it. But I always say this to people because I'm in California and traffic is crazy, right? And when you're on the road, there's so many people who are in a hurry to get someplace. And there's a lot of times where where you get cut off in traffic. And you can take the approach, to your point, what can you do about it, right? You can get all irritated and frustrated and honk your horn and cuss them out and, your chest is beating and, everything is going. Exactly. You choose to do these things, right? And now your whole day is frustrated, right? Or you can take the other approach, right? Well, thank you. I'm safe. Hopefully they get to where they're going. Okay. I have no idea what their experience is at this moment, and there's nothing I can do to influence it. Right. So let me just go on with my day. Right.
At the end of the day, it's a choice, right?
It's a choice.
Choose joy.
I love it.
Choose joy. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I
Choose
love
peace.
It. Yeah. So you worked extensively in leadership, ministry and psychology. How have you seen fear, failure, and frustration impact people's personal and spiritual growth?
Fear is a monster. And in my book, D's and F's Won't Do, where I talk about these 3 F's, and I talk about depression, distraction, doubt, and discouragement, all of those D's and F's are birthed out of fear. Fear is the papa. Fear is the seed. If I am fearful, I'm going to be easily discouraged. I'm going to be easily distracted because I'm fearful of focusing and zoning in on a goal, on a purpose. If I'm fearful, I'm going to be easily frustrated. You're coming after me. Why am I your target? Why don't you like me? It's rooted. All of that thing comes out of fear. So you have an insecure leader you have a person who's called to minister that can't come up to the call, they doubt themselves. It's because of fear. I knew, she's now passed on, beautiful voice. When she sings, she lights up the room, gifted singer. Every time she was supposed to minister, doing a solo, I had to take her downstairs in church and speak life into her. Oh, I'm going to crack. My voice is going to crack. They're going to laugh at me. They're going to talk about me. Fear. While the gift is there, the anointing is there, the talent is there. Many of us have not stepped out, be it ministry, be it career, be it family, be it anything that we pursue because of fear. And because of fear, you try and it doesn't turn out the way you want it to turn out. You think you have failed and you get stuck and you get frustrated. Where did it start? Fear. It's the seed. So have I seen it in all levels, in all areas? And it's a battle we all fight because all these D's and F's are common denominators to all of us. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Can you recall a moment in your own life where you had to overcome fear or failure? And I know we all should.
Oh,
you
yeah,
mentioned everyone
definitely. I can definitely share one.
And really quick, caveat off of that, what did you learn from it about yourself? Okay.
So failure. I'm not a fearful person. I'm honestly, I'm not a frightened person. I'm not easily intimidated.
Yeah.
I'm not. Yeah, it takes a bit for no.
Yeah.
Because you either like me or you don't. You either accept me or you don't. I don't care to be liked. You got to respect me. Respect is earned. Yeah.
I like it.
So failure. When I was doing my doctorate, I studied at University of Maryland, College Park. And being a type AA person, I always go over the top with what is asked to do, exceed expectation. So I did an overly complicated dissertation. My research design was super complicated. I made it more complicated than it needed to be. I had to defend my dissertation. So when I went to defend my dissertation before the committee, they failed me. I did not pass because I did not thoroughly analyze my data and I did not thoroughly present on all my findings because I overdid it. I did more than I needed to do. Well, I started it. I needed to finish it. And I wanted to graduate May of 1997. And I defended, it might have been the March of 1997. You defend, you pass, and then you can walk. And they failed me. So that means I wasn't going to walk May 1997. My family was lined up to come from Canada to Maryland to celebrate, and everybody was happy for me, happier than I was happy because I was super tired from working on this big thing. When I walked out of that conference room, I was broken. I was driving a stick shift at the time. I don't even know how I got home. I cried all the way home. But while I was walking from the building to my car, I told myself, I'm walking in May. They say I'm not walking in May. I'm walking in May. I'm going to finish. I failed at that point, but it wasn't final. I got home mid-afternoon that day. I went straight to my room, covered my head, and went to sleep. Cried myself to sleep. I remember my roommate coming to my room, telling me, aren't you going to eat? I'm like, no, I don't want dinner. I got up that morning, about 2, 3 in the morning, got back on my computer and wrote an appeal to my committee. Begged them, give me the chance to fix my data so I can walk. And they emailed me back and said something to the effect that this is not the norm. Once you fail, you have to wait until the next semester. I kept asking until they said, okay. And while I was appealing, I was working on my data because they give you a list of corrective actions for you to take. So I wasn't wasting time. And by the time they could give me a yes, I was ready to defend again. I went in, defend, clean record, and I walked in May. That failure did not stop me. Was I distraught? Yes. Was I wrecked? Yes. But I fought back. So I was up night after night after night until 2, 3 in the morning. You have people being called doctor today where you wonder where they get it, how they get it.
Yeah.
No, yes, you have doctors popping up all over the place, wherever they get it. But many, many mornings, I was up 2, 3 in the morning working on my data until they give me another audience to present my findings. And I was able to walk May 1997.
Nice. Beautiful. I love it. I love it. And that's the mindset that you need to have, right? Because a failure is not the end. I love
It's
that
not.
message. And that's a
It's the
great
best teacher.
story.
What did it teach me?
It
Don't
is.
take failure as the answer.
Mm,
Be resilient.
all the words.
And you know what? We learn a whole lot more from failure than we learn
Yeah.
from success.
Yeah.
It takes
Yeah.
more to get past what we call failure than it does success. Yeah. It's our best teacher.
I love it. I love it. I know that's really mankind's, if you think about it. Great. You know, your greatest teacher. You said best, so I'm just using another word,
Greatest
but it
teacher.
is your greatest teacher.
Absolutely.
All right, so we know that mindset is very important, right? Especially in the way we respond to frustration, fear of failure. You just gave a great example. What are some practical steps that someone could take to shift the perspective? It's an interesting question.
Mindset. So mind it houses our thoughts. And I see it as two words, mindset. In fact, I just recently did a podcast on mindset myself. My podcast. It's how we think and it's set. So I'm thinking like you put water in the freezer, ice cube, and it's set. Our thought patterns are set in a certain way, mindset. That's why some people can't get past certain perspectives. That's why some people can't process certain things a particular way because their mind is set a certain way. How do we get past? Okay, so maybe when you were growing up, your inefficiencies were highlighted versus your efficiencies. So you have a mindset that I'm not enough. You have a mindset that I'm not as good as someone else. You have a mindset that I'm not capable. It requires then for a renewing of that mind. That mindset has to be thawed out, has to be unraveled and replaced with a healthier mindset. So you view yourself differently. A mindset of capable. I'm just as good as you. I'm not being cocky. I'm not being arrogant, but God didn't make me beneath you. I am gifted just like you are in a different way. So even when I fail, I have it in me to bounce back. The mindset that I am enough, the mindset that I am uniquely made with a purpose, I have value. Even though I was told in my early years that I don't, my mindset has changed. So there needs to be intentional, deliberate intervention to rewire that mindset, to reset it, press the reset button, clear what's there before, erase the preconceived notions and rewrite something on it that you're destined to be, as an example.
Intentional, deliberate. Those are key words. You got to do the work.
Yes,
exactly. It's all on you. It's all on me,
It's not going to happen
right?
to you. Yes. Do you know of anyone, people that are stuck their entire life? They're 40 years old and they're talking the same way. 45, 50 years old and they're still, woe is me.
Yeah, I know.
They have done no work on themselves. Oh, my father told me when I was growing up that I'm no good. I'm just like his father.
Yeah.
Mindset. You're frozen. Your thoughts are frozen in place. They need to be unraveled. They need to be undone. Yes. Yes.
I like it. All right. So here we go. We're gonna tap some of that knowledge of yours. From a psychological standpoint, why do people get stuck in fear and frustration, and how can they break free? We kind of touched it on the last question, but now we want to get scientific a little bit.
Yeah, it's how the mind works. It's how we perceive things. So two people can go through the same experience, and it's less scientific than it is experiential. It really is. Yeah. It's not science, because science is hardcore. Science, you can take a formula and fix something that is scientific. Science is almost like math. We're not computed that way. We're not wired that way. We're emotional beings. We're very complex. We all have lens that we look at life's experiences through. Not physical lens, emotional lens, mental health, mental lens. Now, the framework for our lens is developed by the time we are 5 years old.
Wow. Okay.
By the time we are 7, it's pretty formed. Okay. That's why the early years in our lives are significant. That's why parent-child bonding and connection and healthy attachment is supremely important. It formed it that way from that early. So it's less science than it is person to person. And this is why you could put both of us could be in the very same room, same time, having the same experience, and both of us come out different. You could come out bitter and I come out better. You could come out above and I come out beneath, because it's how we perceive it. Now, why do we perceive it differently? We perceive it differently because of what we came into the experience with, not science. Science, you could take medication and fix science. You could, it's the experiences, it's the path in life we have taken. So I came up in a home where, example, a home where if I came on with a C, I was told, you can do better than that. I expect better than that from you. And I'm not accepting a C because you can do better than that. And whatever you need to do to get that A, we're going to make it happen. You come on with that. You dumb, you stupid. I knew you couldn't do it. See, that's even good for you. So now you're in that room.
Yeah.
And we both had that negative experience. Which path do you think you're going to take? And which path do you think I'm going to take? We both have a brain.
Yeah.
So it's less science than it is how we're wired. While our primary caregiver is talking to us that way, we are being wired a certain way. We're wired for our marriages. Yes.
Okay.
We're wired for how we parent our children.
Yeah.
We're wired for how we treat our friends. We're wired for how we operate on the job. They're wiring us for our life later on. This is the way I describe it. We, as adults, are the adult size of our 5-year-old self.
I agree with that. I definitely agree with that.
So who were we at 5? Who were we at 6? Who were we at 7? Yeah. And I tell you we have to work on ourselves.
Constantly.
We have to work on ourselves. Yeah.
I tell you what, wow, you're giving it to us today. No, I appreciate it, because one of the things where I work at now, we talk about leveraging, respecting and leveraging other people's realities. And that is a great example of why that's important, because we can be seeing the same thing at the same exact time, but we're not looking at it from equal planes because we've had different life experiences up to that point. And depending on what that situation is, there's an opportunity for judgment. Like, why did you see it that way? Or why did you respond that way? Well, you're not really leveraging where this person is coming from.
Exactly. So, and that's why we cannot judge a person's behavior, because we don't know their story. We don't know their history. That's one of the things I've learned from working with people more than ever. We do not know people's history, don't know what they carry. So you can't judge what you see with your eyes. You don't know what's underneath, what's the current that's driving their behavior. Same thing with parenting. Parents aren't perfect. They come into the role with whatever luggage and baggage they carry with them. They're two different things. Luggages are different from baggages. Yeah.
Woo! That 5 years old, 7 years old. Those are some ages that are super young.
Yeah.
And there is a big responsibility for parents, whoever the parents are, to really pack that
shape
good
them.
person stuff in there at that time.
Absolutely.
Well, I appreciate that. So now let's get to your faith. In your experience, what role does faith play in navigating setbacks and disappointments?
Everything.
Okay.
Everything. Because if you come to understand that, first of all, you were made in God's image. He spoke everything else into existence, and he made man with his hand. And man is the only creature that he made that he breathed himself into. The only creature he breathed himself into, which means he lives in us. Flawed, broken, cracked, scarred, frail, but he chooses to live in man because he wants to connect with man. So he wants to connect with me. Let me talk about me. my faith. He wants me to worship him. He wants to commune with me. He wants to fellowship with me. That alone gives me supreme value, not above you, but value in who I am, value in who he has made me to be. So that faith, knowing that I am his and he's my father, I'm his child, the God who created the universe, that placed a lot of value on me and helped me to understand that I have a purpose that he made for me to fulfill on this earth. So that anchors me. That doesn't make me compare myself with other people, never make me feel less. They're going to be people that are more skilled, more talented, more wise than I am. And that's supposed to be. But it doesn't intimidate me because I know who I am in Christ Jesus. So my faith is everything. It anchors me.
Has nothing to do with faith, but I was in, you just mentioned about people are going to be better or wherever in their place, from your perspective, right? And I was at a meeting the other day, room full of people, and a young gentleman who I work with, he got up and he gave a presentation. And I was sitting there looking at the presentation, because I have to do a lot of presentations as well. So I was looking at the presentations and I was like, that's pretty good. I'm going to learn a lot from him. Like that was my perspective. That was the first thing that came to my mind. I'm going to learn a lot from him. Just in that, right? Instead of, defending how good mine is, right?
Exactly. That's the posture. That's a healthy mindset. That's a healthy attitude versus you didn't shift to a competitive mode. Exactly. You shift to a learning mode. Exactly. That's healthy.
I love it.
That's healthy.
I love it.
That's healthy. It's important to have self-confidence. And what trips up a lot of people is they don't have self-confidence. They don't see the worth in themselves. Sometimes people see the worth in you more than you see in yourself. That self-worth is not going to do you any good if you don't see it. I'm not talking about pride. I'm not talking about conceit. But I am somebody. I have a contribution to make. I can make a difference. We need that. We need that.
Yeah. So absolutely. So many people, from my perspective, fear, and even I do at times, we fear making the wrong decision. How do we overcome decision, not analysis, but decision paralysis, and move forward with that word you just used, confidence?
Yeah. Indecisiveness. So it's I have a friend like that. She takes so long to make a decision, she drives me nuts. Overcalculating, overthinking because you don't want to make the wrong decision. Your risk level is low, like down to sub-zero. You can't. It's okay. It's like investing. You'll never earn if you don't risk a few dollars by investing a few dollars, right? You'll never earn anything if you can't throw any money in the pot. Same thing with making a decision. Now, we need to make informed decisions, and we need to look at the potential ramifications of the decisions we make. I'm not saying to carelessly make decisions, but at some point you have to make a decision. And those are the things that a person needs to think about. If I don't make a decision, I'm making a decision not to decide. So either way, you're making a decision. And which one is going to cost me more? Not making a decision or making a wrong decision and learning from it to move forward, or making a right decision and going in the right decision. There are three options. It's a three-pronged road. Stagnant, stale, and die by not making a decision. Making a wrong decision, learning from it and moving forward, or making the right decision and just propel forward. Three choices. I choose to not sit there and rot and die.
I tell you what, really quick, you got me thinking, because I heard this other saying yesterday, and it wasn't like a prophetic, something amazing, but it was just facts. And the guy got up and he was like, look, make a decision, right? We're not building rockets at this point, right? You can make a decision. It could be a wrong decision, and we'll learn from that
it
and pivot. Right? It's not that big a deal.
And you can learn some huge lessons from it. It's fear. You can't make a decision.
Yeah.
You can't. I was in the store with my cousin, several months ago. And she bought something, I can't remember exactly what it was, and the quality of it wasn't good. It broke uh, earlier than she thought, so she wanted to buy another one. I was losing it. I'm like, Kanisha, pick up one. What cause this one? Like, no.
Oh,
Sometimes it is so small and we overthink it, we overcalculate.
yeah.
Because now the reason why you can't make the decision is in your mind, all of what's going to go wrong have already gone wrong in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you're crippled, because all
Mm-hmm.
of what you are afraid is going to go wrong, you already calculated in the equation in your life. That's why you can't move
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah.
I refuse.
Yeah.
I refuse. I refuse. I refuse to go down that
Yeah.
path.
Man.
Yeah.
This is a great conversation. I appreciate that.
You're
I
welcome.
wish we all, I don't know, I can't remember the name of them. Oh, Next. Next by Nicolas Cage. I wish we all had the ability to look and see all of these things that go wrong and then find the right answer. You know what I'm saying? And proceed in that direction. I don't know if you've seen that movie,
No, I
but
haven't.
he had the ability to, once he come to a situation, he could see all the different alternatives and then
Okay.
choose the correct one, right? And that was a lot more dramatic than that. But that was the overall consensus. But here we don't need to do that. And like you said, we need to make educated decisions.
Yes, yes.
We need to make an educated, think about it, but don't get caught up in thinking of
Yeah,
all the
yeah.
negative things. Think of some of the
Exactly.
positive things that can
Exactly.
happen,
It's not
you
always
know?
negative. Yeah,
Right, right,
yeah,
right.
yeah. Don't see the glass half empty, see it half full.
I
Hmm.
love it. I
Yeah.
love it. Hey, so what are some were you about to say something?
No.
Oh, okay. What are some strategies that you personally use to manage moments of fear and frustration in your own life?
I think I've talked about,
You
especially
did.
with frustration.
You did.
Um, I'm very outspoken. If I can deal with it, you're gonna hear me.
Mm,
I'm dealing with it right then and there. I'm killing
yeah.
it. I'm
Yeah.
shutting it down.
I like feeling
And
that too. Yeah.
yeah, and I start my day with my devotion, and my goal is to maintain my peace throughout the day. And
Mm,
if you try to intercept it with whatever foolishness you bring, if I can deal with it, I'm dealing with it, and not in a mean, nasty way, but I'm
yeah.
calling it out.
Yeah.
I don't sweep things under the rug, because it's only going to fester and it will get more than a frustration. And if it's not something I
Mm,
can control, I identify it as such and I treat it accordingly. That's not my thing to address. That's not you trying to get under my skin, but you won't. The shepherd with the sheep, they oil them down, they dip them in oil. So I make sure I'm dipped in oil. I make sure I
I
am
like
greased
it.
up. Amen. So that when you try your foolishness, it just runs off. Literally, I mean it. It's
I love that.
intentional. It's intent. You will not have my peace.
Mm,
You're not going to have my peace. I'm not going to give you that much power in my life to
yeah.
disturb my day.
Yeah.
And when I'm done addressing it with you, I'm done. If anyone knows me, when I say I'm done, if we're having a conversation, it's not going the right direction, and I say I'm done, I need you to listen, because I'm done.
Mm,
Because now the conversation is turning into an argument, and I don't want to get into an argument. So I'm done. Let's stop it
yeah.
right here. But some people, they don't hear I'm done. Now you're beginning to frustrate me. So how I deal with that, I shut it down, walk away. And I'm not perfect at it. Sometimes I do get,
Yeah.
reeled in. We all do,
Yeah.
if it's bad enough.
Yeah.
But I treat frustration as something that is not to be ignored. And that's the point I want to convey. Because remember,
Mm-hmm.
frustration comes in increments. It comes, oh, the pipe is dripping. It's just, it's not a big deal. It's just dripping. Well, leave it there
Yeah.
for time and your water bill will look quite different.
Yeah.
So you can't ignore the little things. That's the point I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to make. And the adversary will want us to, oh, that's just her. That's just, but it's getting in your spirit gradually and
Mm,
piece by piece. So I don't ignore it. How do I handle it? I don't ignore it. I deal with it, and I deal with things as promptly and readily as I can. I don't sweep things under the rug. Fear is not one of my it's not one of my big challenges. Because
mm,
I trust the God that is in me.
yeah.
Public speaking, that's one of people's biggest fear. I stand up in front of you. I do what I can to the best of my ability. You either receive me or you don't receive me. You either invite me back or you don't invite me back. You either applaud
Yeah.
or you don't. I'm still going to say what I have to say. So that's not one of my big challenges.
I tell you what, I do have challenge with dealing with fear, but I've gotten better at it, and I think a lot of it is just through my military training. Because I was really, really shy growing up, really shy, and people see you today and they like, no, you weren't,
Yeah.
but I was, and I am, But it's just the way that you deal with it.
Yeah.
Like public speaking, I don't feel 100% comfortable with it, but the more you know your content, you know what it is that you're going to talk about, and understand that it's not about you. It's about the message that you're conveying to your audience.
Right.
Then you can get out of your own head and having that fear. So I have to really, like the lady you said, you have to, breathe life into her before she went and sang, even though she had a skill. I'm able to do that for myself, which is good.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Positive self-talk. More of us need to be able to do that. Get ourselves out of that rut. Yeah. I'm an introvert. I am. Yeah. There you go. That's the response.
I know, right?
I'm an introvert.
Yeah.
Small talk is hard for me. Small social settings is hard for me. If I'm invited to a party, once I get there, I'm looking for somebody that I know. And once I find that person that I know, I'm right there with them.
That's where you went.
Yeah, that's where I stay for the evening. And if no one that I know is going, quite likely I'm not going to go.
Okay.
It takes me a while to talk to strangers, to warm up to strangers. Usually people talk to me first. But put me in my space and I'm good. Give me a microphone. Give me a chalkboard. Give me a whiteboard. Give me a platform. And it could be 5 people. It could be 5 million people. I'm good. As long as I'm in my space, in my content area, in my, but small talk, no, even, I'll go to the dentist. I'll go to get my hair done. Don't small talk me. Just do my hair. Or wherever I go, you're serving me. But I'm learning. I'm learning. I've come a long way. I've come a long way. I come to get my tires changed. Please, let's talk about the tire, please. Don't do it. But I've come a long way. I've learned to smile, not just from my face, but from my heart. And, talk to people. And that's witnessing to people as well. Just being Christ-like, just being friendly. A smile is a witness. So I'm learning. I've come a long way. And that's the introvert side of me. Yeah. When I speak, especially on forgiveness, and there's a line of people to ask me questions about forgiveness because they're going through, I can't wait for the line to be done. And when the line is done, I'm dashing out the room before someone stopped me, rushing to my room to replenish because the introvert people, drain you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
We're different personalities. Wow.
I tell you, I mentioned that I was in the military. So I want to ask you a question because part of the reason why I started this podcast was my mental state, I guess, when I transitioned from the military to civilian life. Right. So it was fearful. We're talking on fear.
Yeah.
But you still got to move. So my question for you, for service members transitioning into civilian life, the fear of the unknown can be overwhelming. What advice do you have for them in managing this transition?
Well, first of all, don't do it by yourself.
Perfect.
Don't do it by yourself. One of the first things fear will want to make you do is hide.
Yeah.
Isolate yourself. And isolation breeds death. Not necessarily physical death, because you can isolate and overeat. We're talking about mental and emotional death. Death of your purpose. Death of your drive. So number one, do not do this by yourself. Once you hit the ground as a civilian, seek help. The right help. And it's gotten better, but a lot of males don't want to. Don't do it by yourself. That's my number one answer.
That's a great answer. I fought it, and this is fear of failure or whatever it was at that time, if I had to put a title to it. But I continued to work. So they give you like at least a year and some 2 years where you can start preparing for the transition to civilian life. And I've just focused on my work in the military. because that's where I was comfortable with. I
Yeah.
wasn't really comfortable with looking at the other side of
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
But I was so lucky and I was so blessed that I did get, I don't even know how I found out about it, but it was this organization, and it was a class or whatever that happened every Monday evening, about 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock. And it really, truly helped me to transition. It really gave me all the tools because I retired from the military, right? So that's 20 plus years of not networking really, for business purposes. You're doing the military, obviously, not doing interviews, not, caring about these
Yeah.
things. Why,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
change over that
Yeah.
time. So I
Definitely.
was fearful, right? So I love your message. That is the perfect message. Don't do it alone.
Don't
Don't
do it
drown
alone.
alone.
Don't do it alone.
Yeah,
And you're going to be tempted to do it alone. You're going to be tempted to
you are.
isolate yourself. You're going to be tempted to hide, or even mask it. You're going to be
Yeah.
tempted to pretend that you're fine. You're doing it alone, and that's just taking you deeper and deeper, or the person deeper and deeper in that state. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's help. There's help.
Yeah.
And you found help in that class because you didn't do it alone. Yeah.
And even to your point, even when you get to a career or whatever it is that you're going to do, my boss, when I got hired, he used to say, don't drown alone.
Right.
Don't
Right.
try to figure it
Yeah.
out on your
Yes.
own. Like,
Get
we're
help.
here.
Yeah.
So,
As
so it's
early
good.
as you detect that you need help. Help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. Hello. That's
There's a
right.
lot more people out there who
That's
are
right.
invested in your
That's
success
right. Than you believe.
than
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So what's a piece of wisdom or encouragement that you wish more people understood about facing hardships?
Hmm. I really would want more people to know that we are made for this.
Mm,
We're made for this, and every day can be a lesson. Every day we live, or let's clump them together. Every experience we go through can be a lesson. Every trauma is a buzzword these days. Every trauma
mm,
we go through is a okay. My head is going in so many directions in answering your question. Figuratively, I'm going to ask us to take off the glasses we have now, put those aside, and put on a new pair of glasses.
mm.
With this new pair of glasses, our perspective change. We see things from a different angle. So, you're seeing this divorce, so painful, the death of my child, the death of my spouse, the loss of my job, me having to relocate because of XYZ, all from a point of deficit. If we could change the lens from which we're looking at it, I promise you, we would approach it from a different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, when we're going through the situation, it's hard. I'm going through a divorce now. How in the world could that be good? What good could that possibly do for me? But look at what you're coming out of and what you could potentially go into. And how you in turn could use your experience to bless someone who's going down the same path you're in now. So there's always, after every storm, there is a calm. And what the lens that we're going to look at our circumstances through is trouble do not last always. Trouble is for a season. That perspective alone, it's a no season is lifelong. But sometimes we treat what we're going through as if it's a label that we're going to wear forever. It's a situation we're going to be in forever. That would be my advice. And that can help us get through frustration. It can get through the failure. It can get through the fear. This is temporary.
Yeah.
I'm just passing through this. This is a season. And my attitude towards it will make it longer or make it shorter. Which one am I going to choose?
I hear you. I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. You say it more articulately than I do. But usually when I'm talking to individuals and I give them a preface, right? So I usually say, hey, this is just a moment in time. You're going to see your way through it. And I also let them know, hey, I can tell you this from this perspective. honestly, because I'm not in your shoes right now,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I can tell you what normal and kind of show you to the shore in a sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
While you're out there wandering. But also in building my tribe and building my community, I'm going to go through some things too. And sometimes I may lose sight. And I'm going to need you to give me that same clarity, that same direction.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So once again, don't do things alone. You know, find your tribe, find your people, and you're going to need them.
You're
This
gonna
is
need a
life.
community. That's it.
This is life. You're going to need it. I didn't talk a lot about your books. What's your favorite book that you wrote? And don't say your first one. You said that was your most, I forgot the word.
Don't say that one.
Yeah, don't say your first one.
My next favorite might be Leaders Are Like Giraffes.
I saw the picture you in the picture with Leaders Are Like
Leaders Are
Giraffes.
Like Giraffes. Yeah.
What's the concept of that
Oh
book?
my gosh, that's a powerful book. And I have a training that goes along with it that I offer to leaders. So people think of the giraffe's height, but it's more than just his height. More than that, I talk about 19 characteristics of the giraffe, and I metaphorically describe 19, and there's more than 19, but I dealt with 19.
Okay.
I metaphorically bring those characteristics over into leadership, like how you can look at how giraffes eat, how they drink water, how they walk, how they gallop, how they give birth, how they train their young. Meaning mentoring, how they eat, meaning learning, meaning, how they drink water, meaning how they refresh themselves and take R&R, how they give birth, how they it goes on and on.
I like it.
The power and the majesty of giraffes. They're tall, they're majestic, but they're gentle. So leaders have stature, leaders have height, leaders have power, but you lead with gentleness. Giraffes aren't predators. They don't eat other animals. Leaders are not self-centered. They don't destroy others. They build others. Yeah.
I like it. Okay, you sold me. I'll check that one out for sure.
That'll be my next favorite book. Trying to push it more. Yeah.
As you went through writing, you said how many books? 10?
10. Yes.
As you went through book to book, and I'm assuming some of the books are the workbooks.
Yes, that includes as well.
Yeah, but as you started going through writing all of these books and compiling and getting things together, did the process become easier for you, or did it get more difficult because you know more things now, right? You've learned some lessons, and now you're looking at it, you put on another pair of glasses looking at this next book, right? How was that experience?
It became easier. It was very, very rough in the beginning. I wasted thousands of dollars with publishers, which it's a brutal feeling. So many people out there take advantage of indie writers, like unpopular writers like us, like myself. They really mine us for money. This is sad. A lot of scamming out there. I wasn't scammed. I worked with publishers and just lost thousands of dollars. So it became easier. I know now how to self-publish. I self-published all my books. The last one I did with a publisher. I will not go back to a publisher after this. I'm just going to self-publish and self-promote. I do conferences, speaking engagements, social media, Amazon, whatever. The Lord will open the doors, and when He opens them, He opens them. But it got easier. It got easier. Easier in writing, easier in putting it together. I have my designer now. I have my editor. I have my layout person. So it's easier.
Got your team. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I asked you a few questions.
Okay.
Is there something that we haven't covered that you'd like to share with the listeners?
Just to reiterate, somebody's listening today, I know, when you hear this, someone is going to be hearing this that is challenged by one of those F's. Fear, failure, frustration. And I just want to speak into your ear, into your heart, into your spirit to tell you that you have it in you to do it. Whatever you are afraid of, it's not as big as it looks to you. Whatever you are frustrated by, it ain't that serious. It's just a firefly. It's just a little bug buzzing around. Don't let it get under your skin. Just flick it off like a booger because you can do it. There you go. It's in you. I want to build up somebody's confidence today. I want to build up somebody's. Look in the mirror. Look at who you are. Look at how far you've come. Look at all you've gone through. You don't even look like what you've been through. That's what I want to leave for somebody today. Yeah.
Mm,
Don't let fear keep you. And failure, make it a lesson. Make it your teacher.
mm,
What got me here? What have I learned not to do so
yeah.
I don't end up here again? I'm talking to somebody right now. That's what I
Yeah,
want to
you
leave
are.
with you today. It's in you. Yeah, it's in you. And you can do it. Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. I love it. So how can the listeners connect with you and learn more about your work?
So my website is booksbyrosemarie.com. Facebook and Instagram, I have two, Books by Rosemarie or Books by Rosemarie Downer. So I think if you put in Books by Rosemarie, Marie, not Ary, you'll find me. So booksbyrosemarie.com. All my books are on Amazon and my website. And you can place orders there. And yeah, email, if you want to email me, is info@booksbyrosemarie.com. And I'm open to talking to anyone.
All right, there it is. You heard it. Hey, look, so fear, and frustration don't have to define us. They can refine us. Dr. Rosemarie Downer has shared invaluable insights on how to embrace life's challenges with faith, resilience, and purpose. And whether it's learning from setbacks, shifting our mindset, or deepening our trust in God, today's conversation reminds us that every challenge is an opportunity for growth. Dr. Downer, thank you for your wisdom and for being with me today. I've truly learned a lot.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. And if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe to Hindsight, the podcast, so you never miss an inspiring conversation like this one. Keep tuning in, keep growing, and most importantly, let's be more. Thank you. Hey, thanks for joining me here on Hindsight, the podcast. I'm your host, Lee Jones. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I know I did. And while I have you here, why don't you take your mouse, go over and click on that subscribe button. No, not right there. Over to the right. No, down, right there. Boom. Thank you. Now, thank you for subscribing to Hindsight, the podcast. I'm your host, Lee Jones.